welcome to AP Biology. Our last video is going to be on environmental factors and epistasis. In organisms, there's a lot of environmental factors that can influence their appearance. Sometimes it's day length, sometimes it's temperature, sometimes it's the nutrition they're getting. It can vary quite a bit. We're going to look at the day length one. So this is an Arctic fox, and in the summer, in the tundra, it's a very grassy conditions. And if they were still all white, they wouldn't be very good at sneaking around and stealing birds' eggs and those types of things that they do. And so they lose a bunch of their fur and they turn the color of grass, like dead grass, in the summertime. And then in the winter, when it's snowy and snow is everywhere, and they're following around polar bears looking for scraps, they turn the color of the snow and ice to camouflage themselves as best possible. Plus their fur gets much, much thicker so they can stay warm in those colder temperatures. This is a snowshoe hare. It does the same thing. In the summer, it's much more camouflaged with this brown coloration. It can mix in with leaves and such, dead leaves. And in the summer or in the wintertime, it gets much thicker fur and it converts over to the white color of fur. This quail does the same thing. This is an Arctic quail. In the summer, it has much lighter coloration. Much darker coloration, and it can blend into its environment quite well. And then in the wintertime, it gets much lighter coloration to blend into its environment. The Siamese cat has lighter fur in warmer parts of its body and darker fur in the cooler parts of its body, and that's what gives it its coloration. They've done studies where they put little ice jackets on Siamese cats and made their whole body turn dark in coloration. So it's definitely a temperature thing. The enzymes only function if the body temperature is a little bit lower. And in us, exposure tends to cause more pigment production, and lack of exposure reduces pigment production, and that's why we get tan in the summertime. Epistasis is another type of arrangement that we see with genes. And this is where you usually have two genes involved. One of the genes determines a particular coloration, and the other gene determines whether or not that first gene will be expressed. So you have a coloration gene and you have an expression gene. So in Labrador retrievers, brown is recessive and black is dominant. So if you have a black gene and a brown gene, you're going to be black. So black labs are more common than chocolate labs. But if you have a recessive trait for the expression gene, you end up yellow. And so you end up with non-expression of the brown or the black trait. And so yellow labs are homozygous recessive for the expression trait. And then if you have at least one dominant expression trait, you will end up with either chocolate or black coloration depending on your other gene. So this is an example of some chocolate labs where we know in order to be chocolate, to all be chocolate, you would have to have both parents be little b, little b. And at least one of the parents is going to pass on the expression so that everybody gets expressed. What's here doesn't really matter because they're getting at least one big E from this parent. In this particular case, you have some chocolates, some blacks and some yellow labs. So you had to have at least a little E. Maybe one of these is even two little e's in order to get the expression of yellow in the offspring. All of the other ones are black, so if one of the parents was Big B, that would make them all black. If we had a situation like this, of the dark colored ones, we'd expect half to be black and half to be brown. And then we would expect a quarter of them to be yellow labs because of our expression gene and 3/4 to be dark colored. So this is probably the arrangement that their parents had. Here, they're all yellow, and so they have to have 2 little e's in each parent. What they have here is irrelevant, doesn't matter, because they have 2 little e's in each side, so nobody gets the expression of the other trait. And then this is an example of a whole nother gene. So this is a chocolate lab, but it has another gene turned on, which makes it look silver, kind of like the color of a wine red.